We're going to move on now as we're asking, this is James Bond sexist? 0207 862 2222 is the number that you need to get in touch. Now, Dame Helen Mirren has said that the franchise itself is drenched in profound sexism, as she discussed whether the lead role could ever be played by a woman. Now, she's not the first A-lister to make the claim, with Daniel Craig himself previously saying the character is very lonely, sexist and misogynist. Helen Mirren went on to say that she'd rather see stories of real-life extraordinary women who worked in the Secret Service rather than seeing more female prominent in James Bond movies. But is James Bond sexist? Angela, you take a different view on this.
I do. I mean, first of all, I would say, why does it have to be an either-or? If Helen Mirren wants to, she's an influential character, go to production companies and say, make a film about women in the Secret Service, that's fine. Let's put that in that box.
Well, to be fair, she was asked about it. I think she's starring alongside Pierce Brosnan, James Bond came up.
Who's actually been a bit vague about whether he'd come back as a kind of avuncular figure, if that's possible, in the next James Bond film. I love all the books. That's where my Bond interest started. The books are brilliant, but they're very much a product of their time. You know, Fleming describes Bond as this kind of, he's got a cruel mouth and this dark, inky hair, and he's very much, he is a loner. He is somebody who sort of goes his own way, but that's because he's therefore able to do the things that Fleming wanted him to do, who we know himself was in the Secret Service. Now, there has been a slight evolution of the films to some degree, but I actually think fundamentally, look, I've said this before on this programme and others, biology doesn't make us unequal, it just makes us different. And it's quite nice. I mean, you know, men have more brawn, they might have more of a muscular kind of sort of physique. There are actually, it's nice at times for a woman to be saved. And equally, the Bond films have had their share, right back to the beginning, of very sassy females. We've had female villains like Rosa Klebb in From Russia with Love. M is now, well, was played by a woman until Judi Dench was killed off in Skyfall, not literally, the character. And we've had lots of sassy sidekicks who've often got the knowledge, they're scientists, etc.
All right. Nelufar, do you agree with Dame Helen Mirren there? Is the franchise inherently sexist?
I'm going to talk specifically to Bond, the character, and not this idea of let's have women in it or non-binary people. That's a different thing for me. He's an incel. Bond is an incel, OK? He's a guy who thinks that no one can love him. He goes around killing people. His entire shtick is that he's mean and he kind of has this lonely drink by himself. I've honestly...
I don't think you can call Bond celibate, which is what incel kind of means.
I said, like, the energy that he gives.
Right.
Like, he's got
Definitely not celibate.
I don't think that he's lonely. I think that he's cruel. I think he draws any woman that he's ever bedded. The next shot is him walking out the door while she's asleep. I mean,
she might be glad to see the back of him if he's that kind of character.
Well, exactly.
And also, you've got to remember...
I think that's my point. No, hold on. I think that's my point. As a character, if young boys are watching these movies and going, that's what I need to be like, Bond is essentially just a glorified incel.
Come on, in that case, we're worried about Bond being directing our kids.
I've said it.
Let's pause. The movies are sexist. Get your calls in. 0207 862 2222 is the number that you need. We've got a clip to show you now from Goldfinger. Sean Connery is James Bond, of course, and I guess you could say this scene was of its time. Nelufar was watching through fingers there, like that. What did you make of that? So you haven't seen any... I asked you in the break, you haven't seen any of the Sean Connery Bonds?
No, the only ones I've seen were probably Daniel Craig and maybe one or two. I don't even know who
That's
is.
Timothy Dalton. That's my favourite.
Oh,
He's
sorry.
my favourite.
I'll watch a few films.
I love him.
Because I love Angela. I'll watch a few
What did you make of that scene you've just
I thought it was horrific. It's borderline rape culture. I mean, it's genuine. I mean, some of the things that the books...
She chucks him over her shoulder.
After he's...
But yeah, she chucked him over her shoulder.
It's so laced in this, like, pick-me culture, the girls. They're just like, oh... It's just... The whole thing is...
She's a pilot. She works for this megalomaniac.
She's like, get off me. And he's like,
she knows
give the
who
last...
she's working for.
Seedy. He's seedy. You can't like this man.
She has thrown her lot with Goldfinger, who's a very nefarious character. She chucks him over her shoulder. I'm not saying it's right for him to pull her, but she gives us...
When you watched that, you cringed.
And it's a film.
Did you? When you were watching that, did you cringe?
I didn't cringe. I was looking at it with a kind of sense of...
OK, let's find out what... Let's find out what people are saying at home. Dan's called from Gloucester. Dan, save me. Welcome to the show.
My best to save you. That sounds like quite a debate we've got going here.
Go on, Dan. What do you think? Are the films inherently sexist?
I think back in the day, it may be a bit tongue-in-cheek, and people are trying to kind of keep up with the times today. But there's all a bit of fun. I mean, you could say the film Red Sparrow is a bit sexist, or Tom and Blonde is a bit sexist, but it's, at the same time, it's a bit of fun. People enjoy watching the films. Yes, okay, James Bond has got this manly figure about him, but that's exactly what the film's about. Maybe they should put a woman in his place and call it something different with a 007 title next to it. But it's just a bit of fun. Just smile, watch the film like everyone else.
Can I just also say, Bond, if you're going to judge a character and make him slightly 3D, Bond loses his wife is murdered, his parents are killed in a car accident which has some kind of suspicious background, so he's packed off to this very austere boarding school. He's an only child. You know, psychologists these days would have a field day over Bond and say, well, actually, that explains his behaviour. So it's not like he's a random killing machine, which doesn't explain being a killer. It doesn't excuse anything. But what I'm saying is Fleming, with some very difficult prose, and some of it is definitely unhelpful.
The books are certainly a lot punchier when it comes to inappropriateness than the films. But Dan, what about this whole culture you get from the films throughout, and you get it from Sean Connery onwards? It was toned down perhaps when we get to Daniel Craig, but you get this sort of Bond almost forcing himself onto women who are portrayed very often as strong women, but again, Bond has to sort of persuade them in the end, sometimes by force, as we saw there in that clip, to get together. I mean, that surely is uncomfortable watching now, isn't it?
I think James Bond has always had this persona, like he's got a license to kill. He's got women falling in the palm of his hand, which every guy in the world wants to. But at the same time, he's got a job to do. It's his job. He's got a license to kill. He's an agent, which he has to go and take people out and get the girl at the end of it. I mean, what guy doesn't want to do that?
Do you think that... All right, Dan, I'm not qualified to answer this because I'm just a man, but do you guys, Alexis and Dan, do you guys think that this is the kind of role model we need for 9-year-old boys?
Please, they're not role models. It's not an educational package.
I know,
it's a film. Don't watch Rambo. Don't watch Mission Impossible. Don't watch don't watch Indiana Jones. He's vile to some of the women on film. It's a film. I'm not saying it is endorsing any of these things.
But we're talking about Bond.
Look at Shakespeare. Crikey, you've seen the way some men behave in Shakespeare. It's utterly outrageous.
I was asking the men, but thank you. Do you think that this is what young boys should be looking at as a role model for manhood, you know?
Dan, what's your answer to that?
I wouldn't stop my son watching it at all. If my son wants to pick up a fake gun these days which fires rubber bullets and pretend to be James Bond trying to get the girl over his shoulder, fair play, he's having fun. Why stop children being children? I mean, you could try dampening things down too much, but then that ruins things, doesn't it? I mean, if you want to kind of call James Bond sexist, what's going to come after that?
Something better, something different. This is not the version of masculinity. The truth is, I'm happily married.
Why is it so popular? Why is it the most successful film franchise in history? Why do so many people of all ages go and see it?
I think it's because it's the only option of successful manning that we show. There's no sense.
So you're arguing against yourself?
He's never had a relationship longer than one night. I mean,
of course he has. He's been married. Bond gets married on Her Majesty's Secret Service. He does. He gets married. She gets murdered by the villain.
I'm so glad Angela's here.
She gets married by the villain, and that completely shapes his approach to women.
She knows the canon. She knows the Bond's canon.
You're just respectfully. It's you know.
There's no doubt it's a misogynistic character.
But then you can say, well, maybe the women are man haters. Pussy Galore hates men. You shouldn't ever push any woman around, but she takes him on, and he gives as good as he gets.
Do you think? And I know this is sort of veering off the debate, but in one of the last films we saw a woman become 007. Sorry for the spoiler. But do you see that as a future of the franchise?
No, I think they'll kill the franchise stone dead. Make action films about strong role model women, by all means. Leave Bond alone. This is Bond. Make a film about a brand new female, a brand new heroine. She makes the part her own, as they say in X Factor. Why are we so pathetic as women that we have to... This is a caretaker role until a woman can take it over. That's a nonsense. It is for the birds.
It's really interesting.
The birds as in the flying ones.
The reason I agree with you, but for a different different reason. Very funny.
What's good that was?
It was really good. The reason that you could never have a woman doing this is because a woman would never do and behave, and society would never accept a woman to go sleep around with every man that she wants and shut the door and be like, coffee's on the table, love. It's
the world is not enough.
Absolutely unacceptable.
The baddie in The World Is Not Enough, played by Sophie Marceau, is exactly that character.
Okay.
She
All
could
right.
be Bond.
I'm going to pause you there.